Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jobbers Extra. We're going to be going through 5 storylines we would like to see in 2017. I'm here with Mike. We're going to be going through number one in no particular order. The first one that we want to see this year is the debut of Samoa Joe, whether that's at the Royal Rumble or something else. I think that he could have a major impact. But, Mike, what do you think about Samoa Joe coming up to the main roster, and what kind of impact do you think he's going to have?
As far as like wrestling and as a dominant character goes, I think I think Finn Balor was ready, but I think Samoa Joe is even more ready. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I think Samoa Joe, because of his body, I think he can handle the physicality of that dominating schedule anymore. But as I've heard, he is also he was the always the leader of the locker room, which means that because of his reputation and his and just his longevity in the business. He's just going to go in there and fit in right away. Plus, I think even more than Balor, although we haven't seen Balor in this role yet, he can switch between heel and face, and it's fluid. And like his switch from heel to face, from face to heel in NXT was fluid. So yeah, he could walk in and be a dominant mid card champion right away. I mean, and that's without question. But I think he could walk in and be dominant as a top guy. I think he's one of those guys like AJ Styles that could walk in and be a top guy in a matter of 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I think he could step in immediately and become a dominant heel. I think he's more natural in that, and it just kind of depends on what they want to do. I know that the Royal Rumble right now is set primarily for the Goldberg Lesnar angle, so I don't know that a gigantic debut is going to work this year like it did last year, because really they've hyped it up for just two guys. So I think it would be cool for him to come out in Royal Rumble, as a surprise and stuff. But I think it would work more if they had something like the Authority has an enforcer or something like that. A third member of a group or something, to that effect, instead of just bringing him out and just kind of tossing him in the mix. So I think that he is going to have a gigantic impact, or he should, if he's on Raw. And I think on SmackDown, of course, I mean, that's our preference of shows, just because they put more effort into things. But I think that, if something were to happen in the draft where they move, AJ Styles over to Raw or different things like that, which I think probably is going to happen, if SmackDown was without a top heel, he could move over and immediately take that spot. So either way, I think that, he's definitely going to have a gigantic impact. It just kind of depends on, the rosters and that sort of thing on each show and where they want to put him. I think that for some reason, the majority of the NXT people have ended up on SmackDown, and they've actually excelled. They've come out looking stronger than what they would have on Raw for sure. So I
Yeah,
think, Samoa Joe is going to be just fine wherever he lands, but I hope that they use him properly.
yeah. So one of the scenarios that I sent to you in a text this week, and is that I would love to see Triple H have an NXT faction.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would love to see KO be kind of the leader or co-leader with Samoa Joe, and then have like the Revival underneath them. Because if we look at like the Revival, there's really not much more left that they can do
Right.
in NXT, and just having them come in as in a part of a dominant faction, and then maybe working their way up the like Raw tag team or the NXT, or the like if they went into SmackDown, just the type of fuse they could have with American Alpha right away
Hmm.
would be unreal. The matches those guys had would just be
Yeah.
amazing, and I think that having Samoa Joe have a faction like that kind of leaves him some wiggle room for either KO to turn at some point, or Samoa Joe to turn at some point. And I think both those guys are natural heels, and I think both have the capacity to be faces.
Yeah. It just, the biggest thing, and we kind of harp on this a lot, is for Raw to decide what they want to do with the storylines and when they're going to involve Triple H and all this stuff. So when they bring him back against Seth Rollins, which I'm assuming that's going to happen at WrestleMania, maybe Samoa Joe makes his appearance there and takes out Seth Rollins. That would immediately put him in the top of Raw as far as the top heel. Seth Rollins has already kind of transitioned his way into the top face almost. So they just need to trust their talent, and I think that Samoa Joe is one of those guys that you just kind of let him go, and he's going to do what he does. You don't really have to worry about him too much, and it seems like they worry about a lot of their current roster being able to hold their own. And I think that he's one of those guys you just kind of let him go, and he's going to be fine. So,
do you think like that him coming in and taking the U.S. title off a guy like Cena would be good for his career? I mean, I think naturally, one that would get him over with the marks like you and I.
Sure.
Just taking the title off of Reigns, but also I think having him solidifying that spot, he's going to take with it, and he's going to run with it. So like just briefly, like Braun Strowman, they've already booked him as better than Kevin Owens, so there's really no point of having him take the U.S. champion.
Right.
So like that would seem to be like a natural transition, taking the title off Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things like if they want to establish his dominance, you come in and just have him shred Roman Reigns, have him beat him quickly, or, even have him take his time and just beat Roman Reigns to a pulp or whatever you want to do. And then later on, if you do any kind of Shield reunion or something like that, and Samoa Joe is part of a faction, then you've opened the door for that. So, I think that there's a lot of possibilities there. It's one of those things they have to, let Roman not be, perceived as like the main guy, and I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of that scenario is that Roman Reigns never loses. They want to, like CM Punk said, make Roman look strong, so having Samoa Joe, dominate him or something like that is the best way to go. It's just, will they do it or not?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, that's the biggest downside of WWE in general, is just making the proper choices for, the people that need the push and not the people that they want to push, kind of thing. So, they don't know how to push the people they want in the proper way. So, it would make sense for Samoa Joe to come up and just be that dominant force like Rusev was, like he just doesn't lose for a while. But they've kind of established that in NXT anyway, that, Finn Balor, is capable of beating him, and Nakamura is capable of beating him. So he's not unbeatable, but he is a dominant force, so it just kind of, how do they move him to the main roster? What do they want his character to be, and who do they put him with? So, it's all going to be interesting to see how they do it. So, but definitely, I'm looking forward.
How do you expect him to debut?
I mean, what I would like is, similar to what you said, have him come take a title immediately, or my theory of him coming out at WrestleMania and causing some kind of disqualification or joining Triple H in that way. Just basically tearing Seth Rollins to shreds. But more than likely what they're going to do is have him come out in the Royal Rumble, and it's just going to be kind of lost in the shuffle. That's kind of how I see that happening. So what do you think his debut is going to be like?
I think that they have as much faith in him. I think that NXT championship means something down there.
It should, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they'll give him as strong as a push as they gave Finn Balor in some way.
He deserves it,
He does, absolutely. So I don't think he'll just become lost in the shuffle. I think that if he's involved in the Royal Rumble, it will be with a distinct plan, sort of like when Sami Zayn debuted last year. Like, it was like, okay, he's going to come in, he's going to throw out Kevin Owens, and then like he'll do a little bit of work, but we've given him a storyline out of here. I think that it's not just like he's going to debut, there's going to be a big pop, and then he's going to be thrown out by someone like Goldust. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Do you see him maybe throwing out Goldberg and Lesnar or something? Like, I mean, that would establish him as like a dominant guy as well.
Yeah, something like that's very well possible. Or like he comes in at like number 28 and just and he is like part of Triple H's regime. So, and like you can see him like just coming in with a chair, putting a hurt on Seth Rollins, jumping over the ropes himself, and then allowing whoever, like Kevin Owens or something to align himself with, to throw over Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I mean, don't they have, isn't Reigns and Owens, they're fighting at Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah, so you can see something like that with like Rollins, where or that like maybe it's the Triple H comes out there at 28, Rollins is left at 29 or whatever, and then Samoa Joe just comes out, chair shot, chair shot, chair shot, and then throws over, Seth Rollins, and then allows Triple H to win it.
Yeah, I mean,
something like that.
There's a lot of scenarios that make a ton of sense. It's just what are they going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
but they've booked the Royal Rumble again as the Goldberg, Lesnar show, and
we both know that none of those guys are winning.
Yeah, so hopefully Samoa Joe shows up and has an impact. Let us know what you guys think of Samoa Joe debuting on the main roster. What would you like to see him do, and when do you think it's going to happen? We think that's going to happen relatively soon, but anything could happen, and it just kind of depends on what they do. So throw your comments down below. Let us know what you guys think of Samoa Joe, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.